All right, Gia, welcome to the podcast. Before we even get started, this is a conversation that has been well overdue. This is one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to sharing with the world because I've known about you for a while and I definitely want to shout out Josie and the Fierce Femme tribe. Shout out to our girls. It's because of that space that we have been brought together and now we're able to sit down and have a real ass conversation. So shout out to you, shout out to Josie, the Fierce Friends. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you. I'm honored. I was very honored when you reached out to me and we made this connection because I know what you're all about. And I'm just starting in my platform. And you are definitely one of the people who have motivated me to continue to grow this dream of mine. So I'm really excited to get into what we're getting into today, even though it's heavy. I'm excited.
All right, so you're a listener of the show, and you know that we have real ass conversations. We have conversations that are very much hush hush taboo. People don't like to bring to the forefront. But like we said before we started recording, we're destigmatizing the stigma around mental health, around childhood trauma, around a lot of things that, especially us people of color and especially Latinas, we were brought up to suffer in silence, to be seen and not heard. And that shit manifests into adulthood. And we're going to get into that, right? But I know from the little pieces that I heard about you and your story, very profound, a lot of trauma, especially in your childhood. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about what life looked like for you growing up. And then we'll get into your whole healing journey in adulthood. But let's start off with childhood.
So I came to Jersey when I was, I'd say around 4 from Puerto Rico. And what I remember growing up was my mom working hard. She worked really hard. And she was a single mom. She had my sister when I was about 4, 5, right when we got to Jersey. She had my sister. And it was a lot of growing up that I had to do almost instantly. So I would say I stayed home with my sister as little as like 7. She would have to work overnight and I would stay home. And it was a very violent home as far as if things were not done my mother's way. I was disciplined in ways that I didn't realize were abusive until I got way older. It was very chaotic and we moved a lot. I'd say we moved at least once a year. I was the new girl quite a lot. I was very uncomfortable in my skin. Like I had to mask everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, I had to adapt to what was going on and who was around me and what should I say and what shouldn't I say. And it was very much a lot of like just me trying to figure out how should I act to be accepted. The abuse was emotional and physical abuse. The physical abuse, like I said, I didn't know was abuse. I found out it was abuse when I got taken away from my mom at like age 9. When I found out, or when I got taken away from my mom, I had just received a beating the night before. And I went to school and I gave the teacher the assignment that she was asking for. And my sleeves were not long enough to cover up my arms. So when I gave it to her, she saw that I had a bruise here. I was already crying mess because she was yelling at me for something else. She saw I had a bruise here and she lifted my sleeve and she saw the rest of the bruises. And right there and then it was just crazy. Like it was a whirlwind. The police was called, DIFUS was called. It was insane what I went through that one day. I just recently got back into this memory. Going back and reflecting on it is so invasive. The whole day and how I went. Right after they took me out of school, they took me to a hospital to photograph the abuse. There was no family there with me. I think I was accompanied by a school counselor who was answering questions for me, but there was nobody there and they had to take pictures of me, even private, of my private area, I guess, to confirm that I wasn't being sexually abused at the time. And I had to do all this, again, no parent, no one was there. And so we did all that. And then I was taken into Not really sure if it was the police station or where I was, but that's where I saw my mom later on. She was in handcuffs, and I was in a room, and I was watching her through this glass. And I just remember thinking, like, what did I do? Like, what did I do? What's going to happen? I was not prepared for what was going to happen. But that was my childhood. That was until I was like about 9. And then it was a whole nother, I would say the next like 5 years were just chaotic, just as chaotic as the first few years of my life. It was a lot.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's not easy to listen to. I know it's not easy for you to relive through it. And I appreciate you for going as deep as you did because you didn't need to. But, this is the reality of what a lot of us have dealt with. And I truly feel like it is so healing for us to be able to sit down and share our truths, share our traumas, share the shit that you suffered in silence for years. You lived in survival mode for years. And it's not until recently becoming a parent yourself and, becoming an adult and then realizing so much of the shit that we have gone through childhood that we tend to bury deep down, pretend like it's not there. Eventually, your shit is gonna bubble up to the surface in one way, shape, or form. Now, while my childhood was not anywhere like yours, I definitely had shit within me that I was suppressing. And my shit bubbled up when I almost lost my life being in an abusive relationship. And that was the turning point for me when I really wanted to dig deep and sit in my shit, figure out why was I attracting these type of people and really starting my own personal development journey. It took for me to almost lose my life for me to wake the fuck up and be like, okay, some shit's got to change. So for you, I would love to know, because this is pretty recent for you going on your healing journey. What was your pivotal moment that you decided, I have these mother wounds, these father wounds, this childhood shit you've gone through in adult life. Like, what was it for you that made you get to the point that you really wanted to take your healing seriously?
I always say it was planning my wedding. It just blew life up for me. Like what I thought life was, what I thought the journey I was on, it was just like right in my face. Like everything I was suppressing right there. It started before that, my healing, but I didn't know I was doing it. I was going to therapy, I was doing the stuff because I knew I was dealing with PTSD. I knew I was dealing with things. I knew I was dealing with depression. I was doing the things that I thought would help me get better. And then I started the process of planning my wedding. And the people pleasing really, that's when it like blew up in my face. The audacity of people taking up space during my wedding journey. That was the thing that really put me in my place of like, what are you doing? Who are you surrounded by? Why are you surrounded by these people? And how did you get here? Is this your life that you're living? I guess that within those questions, I really started to tune in with the fact that I was not within myself. I was living so outside of myself.
Just like your childhood.
Yes, completely separate, just checking off boxes and making sure that I was good enough so that nobody had to worry about me. Don't worry about me. I've got this. I've got it covered. I'm getting married. I found love. I have the kids. I have the house. I have love. I got it all. I'm not sad, Giovanna. I thought that by covering these things, I would avenge myself somehow of this childhood and suppress everything I dealt with. But yeah, during that process, I really took time to realize I was not living an authentic life to what I wanted to, and it was because of childhood wounds. It never dawned to me to think about how you go from childhood to teenhood to adulthood. That transition, how you go from teenhood to adulthood, and I became a mom at 17. I had my first child at 17. I mean, being a single mom with him, I made a lot of the same mistakes that my mom made. Luckily, by the time he was 4 or 5, I really was like, I have to figure this out. This is, again, how I started my healing journey, but I didn't know I was starting my healing journey. Baby steps. And I felt like, okay, you have to settle down. You have to calm down. You have to give David, that's my son, roots. You got to give him something. I didn't know from what, from what. So it developed very small, very, tiny. But what I started to do was I was everyone's friend and all my friends were family. We're all family. We all in this together. And no,
Mhm.
this is just not it. It's not it. And it's not until you start going through shit with your actual family, your kids, your spouse, and you start realizing this life isn't one big party. Life is fucking real. Shit gets real. And you realize that the people around you, like, if you have no substance, like no substance in the people around you, no real care about the core of you, nobody to see that, the people around you aren't really your friends.
And that's a reflection of what you are seeing in the mirror. The people that you keep around you, especially the very low vibrational ones. It makes me think about when I was with one of my exes and all we would do is party and drink every weekend while I'm a young mom leaving my kid at home, my parents taking care of her, and I don't have a care in the world. It's like, yo, like, what the fuck are you doing? But you have to go through these things in order for you to learn from it. But I appreciate you for sharing that because, damn, I felt so like, oh my God, I'm such a shitty fucking mom.
No, I went through it. I did it, and it felt, I didn't wake up to it until I'd already had 3 kids. By the time I started planning my wedding, I'd already had 3 kids. And I was like, "Ooh." Once I woke up to all of it, the guilt that follows and the anger and all those steps that follow after that, it's part of the journey. But it was a lot.
What I appreciate you sharing is that the journey, it doesn't need to be this like profound thing. Like it's little baby steps, right? And as you grow and evolve, more things come, but it doesn't need to be like, you decide you want to start healing your shit and then you got to like balls to the wall. Like I have to do everything all at once. Like, no, you had the self awareness. And I think that's one of the most important pieces, especially in the beginning, to know like, I feel like shit. I don't like my current situation. I don't like how I'm behaving. I'm aware of that. So now I can start to shift and change. But take it not even one day at a time. I say this shit all the time on my podcast, like one fucking second at a time when it comes to healing your shit, especially childhood trauma, especially if you were abused as a kid or, toxic relationships, whatever your trauma is, little tiny minute baby steps and that will eventually evolve into the woman that you are now, right? But we all got to start from somewhere. That's my whole point. So yeah, I know you can relate, and being that we spoke about you being a mom, I would love for you to share some advice because you've been on this journey, highs and lows, ups and downs, all of that. What piece of advice would you tell either a single mom or, someone who's married? How can they prioritize their own healing while nurturing their children and maintaining their house?
This is definitely a hard thing because I feel like it's something you constantly have to change. You constantly evolving to your kids' needs. And I think as a mom in your healing era, you're going to come across selfish. You're going to have to be okay with that. You're going to make small sacrifices for yourself to be able to heal, like getting up earlier so you could journal or meditate. I think the most important part is when you're healing, the self awareness that you give to yourself makes you a better parent. You start to understand that not only do you need this softness and this love that you're giving yourself, your children need it. When you have not received that growing up, it's not always your default. I'm a very, I would say, bubbly person. I can be very loving, But my default is to flinch when my kids come up to me. My default is to say, "What the fuck do you want?" when you're in my face. Like, I that is my default because that's what I grew up with. Now, there are moments where I will flinch now and I will catch myself and I'll be like, "Yes? Did you need something?" Um, and that is because of taking time now out to meditate, taking time out to journal, and knowing that, yes, this is your default, but that doesn't have to stay like that. And being mindful of your patterns and making one single decision to make that pattern different breaks the pattern. So just make one tiny decision that's different from the last one that you made, so that would be my advice, stay evolving with your kids. um there will be small sacrifices that you will make, but they will be for you, and you will be called selfish for healing. Family members won't recognize it. Honestly, I think the people who recognize it the most are your kids. My kids are my biggest motivators. When they see me work out, they're like, "Yes, mama, you go, you work out, you do it, you have a good gym workout." When they heard about my podcast, they cannot wait to get on it. I told them it's not for you guys. My oldest, he is my biggest pain in the butt, but he's also my biggest supporter of me healing, of me talking, of me. And I think that it's important that you show your kids that healing is a priority because they will have to heal too. We're not going to be perfect. Life is going to be lifing for them too, and they will have things to heal from, and they need to know that it's okay to make it a priority. To make it a priority to heal and not make it a priority to find someone and be with some, like, there are so many things to prioritize in life, and I feel like people just don't speak upon healing as one of those things. Like, when you go through things, you have to feel your feelings and you have to heal from them. There's no timeline on when. You do that when you need to, but healing is necessary unless, you want to just keep on these cycles.
Right. And that's everything is a choice, right? And I appreciate you for sharing that because it's like we talked about before, we have the ability to create the life that we want to. And what we do, especially as parents, we can either continue the cycle of abuse that we grew up in, and then we pass our trauma onto our kids, and then they repeat the cycle. Or you coming from a very chaotic home, now you have the ability to shift the narrative and you're showing your kids that, like, despite the shit that I've gone through, I am not going to continue the cycle, and I'm going to show you guys what it is to heal. And it's important for me to make sure I'm good first, and then you guys will be taken care of, but I got to make sure my cup is overflowing before I can come to you guys. And it's okay. It's hard as fuck, right? Especially, having a husband, having a home, having a career, all this shit. Especially us moms, like, we're always so worried about everyone else. What the fuck about you? What about you? You're fucking depleted. You're angry. You're lashing out because you're putting all of your eggs in everyone else's basket, but you're neglecting yourself in the process. And that's not love. That's not self love at all. Let this conversation be the permission that you needed to hear, that it is not selfish, it is self-full. Okay?
Yes.
That part.
Be so full of yourself. Like, be full of yourself. What else are you supposed to be full of? And I get it. As mothers, we should dote on our children, and they will be adults and they will need to live their own lives. And you will still be here with all this healing to do. And maybe then you'll feel like that's the right time to heal. There will never be the right time to heal because even in adulthood, they will need you. You will always be a mom. Always. So you will always be yourself too. So be true to yourself. Like, be true to you. So you can also, inspire your kids to be true to themselves. Like I say, monkey see, monkey do, right? So inspire your kids by being authentic to yourself. When you're authentic to yourself, you don't want anyone else to be a fraud, including your children. You want them to be anything they want to be. And I think that that's honestly this through true healing with yourself that you realize no one is the same. Your superpower is you being you, and That's what I want to empower my children. You know, no matter what it is that you are, that is your superpower. You are you, be good, be kind, have great morals, but be you, uniquely you. You want to be loud, you want to be spicy, you want to be sassy, whatever it is, just do it. And I'll love you for that.
I love that so much. And, it's the perfect segue of the next part that I want to talk about, which is your podcast. She's a new podcaster, y'all. And yes, it's called Healing the Roots. And that's definitely very much aligned with Watch Us Thrive, which is like, yo, I gotta have her come on and we gotta talk about her podcast. So talk a little bit about, the purpose behind it and how has podcasting itself been therapeutic for you in your own personal development journey?
So I'm, like you said, I'm still very new to it. And I just got into episode 2. And it was a lot. I dove right into childhood roots. I was like, we're going into the old roots. We're diving right in, because I want people to know where it came from and where I'm at right now. And unfortunately, too many people, when you go through trauma, they love to see the shiny part. Oh, but look at you now. But look at you now. You're doing so well and your kids are so healthy and you're why even open this can of worms? And it's because, like I posted today, because I can. And there's a power in that. So healing my root is about that, having audacity to take up space, having the power to say what happened to me, my story, and not it be like, oh, well, you're doing this for this and you're doing this for that. And, because that's always how I was pinned whenever I would speak upon what happened to me. Like, oh, like, what do you want from telling this story? And it was just like, I always felt like, what is it that I want from telling this story? What do I want? And it wasn't until recently that I was empowered to that was my healing, not only my healing to myself, but my healing power to others. You need to tell your story, I was told. Like, you have to tell your story. There are people waiting to hear your story so that they can feel empowered to share theirs. I felt this for so long. I don't know why I never listened to it myself. Hearing it someone else telling me, I was just like, you're right. I'm tired of staying quiet and living out this life of that's for what? For who? Who am I protecting? Or what am I afraid of? And it was really, what am I afraid of? When you actually start talking about these things, obviously you were not supported from the get-go. But now that you're speaking about it, your people are going to come right up to you like, this is why I don't talk to you. This is why you're stuck in the past. It is more than that. And the people who want you to heal are going to not only see that, but empower you to keep going. I know that through telling my story, I will find more people that need this medicine. That's what I feel like I've been put on this earth to do. And I just feel like I was put in these signs, this air, this communication, the way I can interpret things and my feelings and communicate things was not by mistake. The reason why I went through the things I went through, unfortunately, it all had its purpose. And I was really angry about that for a long time. I was very angry with God. I was like, me and you, bro, we are not okay.
We got some beef.
We got some beef because I'm here trying to be your strongest soldier. Hey, you out here like, you got this. You could do more. And I'm like, I'm fucking tired. Like, why would you give me? I just felt like, why would you give me such a trash childhood? I was really mad about my childhood. And then in adulthood, I was like, oh no, I've got the power. I've got the fucking power now. And these last 5 years have been just trying to empower myself to do all the things that I'm doing. And that's where I got to this point where I started the podcast. But that's really what it's about. It's about me showing up for myself, sharing my story, and hopefully empowering others to do the same thing and to keep not like this surviving, but this the thrive by saying what is on your mind. Validate yourself, encourage yourself, empower yourself, find your worth in yourself because it's all within you. And healing that root cause of unworthiness will lead you to thrive. So I think that that's definitely where I want to get to the bottom of all my in my podcast.
I'm so here for it.
Yes, I'm not done with my story, but I'm just like really like right now I'm like, all right, let's see what we can actually do. Let's see what we can do.
I'm so here for it. I'm so proud of you. I just want to say the vulnerability that comes with you. We've known each other for a little bit now, and just seeing from my point of view the way that you're evolving and stepping into your authenticity, into your transparency, and just like a lotus flower just opening up, and you're just radiating this confidence and this like, owning your truth. And that's what I'm all about. That's why I started my podcast. That's why I bring people on like you to share your pain to power. Gia's been through some shit, y'all. It's just the tip of the iceberg with the shit that she's gone through. And you guys are going to listen to it on her podcast. So we're going to link it in the show notes. Let this be inspiration for anyone who's listening or watching that, like, you have the power within you to change your life narrative. You do not need to continue being a victim of your circumstance. It's not easy. We're not going to paint this picture that it's rainbows and butterflies and zen and, all that. The shit that you see on TV, it's bullshit, okay? Real deal healing is fucking ugly. It's painful. It's you sitting in your shit like we talked about before, but it's you being able to grow and evolve and then help others with our lived experiences. So if we're doing it, you absolutely can do it too. So since we're on, we're talking about your podcast, talking about embracing your vulnerability and all of that, what is a piece of advice you would share with someone, say they want to start a podcast or they want to start a blog or they just want to start sharing their shit, but they're scared, they're hesitant, they're worried about what are the people going to say? What is my family going to think? All of the outside noise. Share a piece of advice on how you would tell someone to embrace the vulnerability that comes with the healing journey in sharing it with the world.
Honestly, do it scared. Do it shaking. Do it, terrified. The people who are going to want to stop you, let them rise up so that you can see who they are. Because those are the people who really do not care about watching you thrive in life. Those are the people who honestly probably don't even pay your bills. They literally do nothing but add these opinions in your life that share no value to you. So like, let them rise up and so you know who they are and knock them right out of your life. And I'm not saying it's easy because it's not. It's a very not easy, ugly, lonely at times. That's where finding community is really important. But it is your right as a human to heal and is your right as a human to share your stories. All right. If they didn't want to be on here talked about, they should have treated you better. I've made mistakes. I've never, I'm not a perfect human, but I stand on my truth, on my mistakes, and I stand on my story. And you need to have the audacity to take up space. Have the audacity. Be that bitch. And what? Say it with your chest.
Yes, with your whole chest.
With your whole chest.
No, absolutely. And like you said, that allows you to weed out the people that don't need to be in your life. That allows you to take inventory of what's going on. And sometimes setting those boundaries, that's one of the highest forms of self-love, of you being like, you know what, you were a part of my life during this chapter, but you cannot come with me to the next one, whether that's family, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a friendship that y'all have been down since childhood, but
It will
she's little,
happen.
it will happen, right? But if you're committed to growing and evolving and healing and doing all the things, sometimes it's going to take for you to find a new community, which is how me and Gia were able to come together by sharing our shit and doing it scared and doing it anyway. So if we're doing it, you absolutely can too.
Yes, you can. And in doing it, you will find your own people as well, your own community of people. Honestly, just having one person reach out to me in a day to be like, thank you for sharing that, or me too, or like, same, or I can't believe you spoke on that. Like, just thinking about it right now brings me to tears, because that's why I do it, because it's so lonely to go through trauma and abuse and trying to mend yourself. You can't walk around talking about it all day, because then it's like you're like the sad cloud. It's something you have to do and take personal, So I do say that if you feel empowered to share your story, if you want to share it and you're just scared, do it scared. Do it with tears in your eyes, and do it scared, because there's a version of you waiting for you to do this. And you're never going to see that version if you stay safe in your comfort zone. You're never going to see this version of yourself that you keep thinking like is so far away. She's not. She's not that far. She's one step away. She's one step away. So I think that it's important that people understand that.
Yeah. Oh, I knew this conversation was going to be good. I feel all the feels, and I just appreciate your vulnerability and your truth and you allowing others to not be so scared and embracing all of them, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So shout out to you. I adore you so much. I'm so glad me and you connected.
Shout out to you, Miss Thriving over here.
Thank you. I'm trying.
And I feel so inspired watching you share your story. When Yossi brought up your podcast to me, I'm not even sure. I think she was going through podcasting. She brought you up and you guys had just met. And I just remember following you on Instagram, getting you on social media, and seeing the power that you had in sharing your story and being like, yes, that's something that happened to me, and that's part of my story. That's not me now. The way you're taking power back in your life, I was just like, yes, that's right. That's what I fuck. That's right. Because it's like, how much you need that cheerleader in your life, And when you see people on social media who are doing it, who are telling you what their story is, because I know everyone's got a story, but some people are just not going to let you in that deep. And that's okay. That's their prerogative. But to be able to get that deep and say, like, I'm not going to let this control me or be the reason why this also happens to me, is so empowering, and it needs to be seen. It needs to be seen, it needs to be shown, it needs to be spoken about. Women need to be talking and having these conversations with one another, because that's the only way we'll actually grow as a society, not just individuals, but as a society. For women, like, I really hate that women are taught that you have to be a provider of something, or you're not. If you're not a good sister or a good mother or a good aunt or a good, you have to be some way caretaking someone else to be a good woman. And it's like, no, it's just born worthy.
That's the fucking patriarchy, okay?
Yeah, like, it's fuck that shit. Like, no, I was born worthy. I got my own set of shit to do, and I'm doing it because I want to, simply just because I want to. And more women need to be empowered to do that.
Absolutely. And that's what we do by having these conversations. Thank you so much for seeing me. I see you as well. And I just love what you stand on and I love how you're showing up. Please keep going. You have no idea how just one conversation is going to help someone else by you just sharing your truth and your story. So I want to ask you as we wrap up, what do you want the biggest takeaway for the listeners and the viewers to get by hearing your story?
To not make it your life story. Just because you went through something horrible, whether it be in your childhood, and most of the time when you go through horrible things in your childhood, you tend to repeat them as adults. Just because this is your life does not mean that you cannot wake up tomorrow and decide you want a new one. And decide that you're ready to make new steps. And like I said, one tiny decision breaks the pattern. So it's just making micro decisions in this healing journey to get you. That's all you need to do to start the healing journey. So start the little things that start asking yourself little things like, do I really want to do this? Why am I doing this? Stuff like that. And start making small changes because this is your life. You got to take control of it.
And you only get one, y'all. You only get one, and tomorrow is never promised. You have no idea when it's your last moment on this earth, and you don't want it to be that, God forbid, something happens to you, and then you have all these regrets of like, oh man, I should have started that podcast, or I should have ended that relationship. You have the opportunity now, like Gia said. It's one decision away from completely changing your life. You have the permission to do that shit. Thank you so much for sharing that. The last question I want to ask you, since we are on the Watch Us Thrive podcast, tell me, what does thriving mean to you?
Thriving to me is no longer surviving. Thriving is being able to live your authentic life and like not giving a fuck what anybody else thinks about it. It's hard to not give a fuck as someone who really gave a fuck a lot, but it's also like I be waking up feeling rich as fuck because I'm living a very authentic life. Yes, I'm a mom and things get chaotic, but the time I get with my kids, the fact that I get to record on a podcast, I get to work out Monday through like I'm so grateful for the life I have, and that's because I asked and I did and I'm doing the damn thing. I took up space. I'm taking up space the way I want to. And it's not easy. Coming from a Spanish family, girl, lazy. That's all they want to call me. Lazy because I don't work a corporate 9 to 5 because, you know, they don't see the pay stubs. Like I said in the beginning, you're going to be called selfish for going on this, for doing this journey. So yeah, for me, thriving is fuck that noise and being like, you know, I feel good. Like take up space and take inventory of that space. You know, how do you feel? Does that feel good? You know, does it feel good to not have to fucking go to work for that miserable boss you have? Like, I'm sure it does. I'm sure that took up a lot of space in your head. And now you feel like, oh my God, I have ideas now. I can talk to my kids without, you know, feeling like I don't even have time for this because I have to get back to so and so. And, you know, like, again, to each their own. Everyone has a version of what their life would look like if it was easier. And my thing is, it's not that far away. And really, the only reason you're not going there is because most of us are worried about checking these boxes of I have to be making this much money. I have to have the house, the kids, the marriage, all of this. And I have to sustain all that. Yes, if you're sustaining all that, yes, it's going to be really hard to get to where you want to get if that's the opposite of where you are, you know? So it's like really hone in on what you want, go for it, and don't give a fuck about what anybody else has to say about it. Really just no.
Period. Zero fucks given, y'all. Okay. Let that be the takeaway from this conversation. Gia, I appreciate you so much. I adore you. May this be the first of many beautiful conversations that me and
Yes.
you have. Please let my audience know how we can listen to your podcast, how we can follow you, anything else you want to share.
So I am right now on Apple and Spotify, Healing the Roots. Right now, just like I said, I'm still a newbie, but I'm hoping to get on more platforms. And yeah, you guys come give me a listen and share some space with me.
Yes. And leave a rating and review, y'all. Okay.
Yes, please interact
Yes.
with me. I love interacting.
And where can they follow you on social?
On social media, you guys can follow me also at Healing the Roots. It's healing_the roots. And my personal La Vida Gia. I also share all my stuff on there as well. So yeah, you can follow me on both of those.
Yes, we will link all of her info in the show notes. Once again, Gia, thank you so much for being here. Y'all, this was the first time that she shared her truth on another platform. So
Yes.
let's give her a round of
Look at
applause.
this.
You did amazing. You did amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.